Okay, I don't know how to do that from my computer. Sorry, from my external camera. That's what I was trying to do, and I don't know how. I'm not tech savvy. So here I am, trying to fix that and probably delete the previous one. So yeah, I have to delete that previous live because I'm not tech savvy, but basically, I think that this live stream was important for me to do because there are a lot of people who are, there's two camps right now in MMTLP, and the two camps are people who are for the 2-day and people who are not for the 2-day. And I think that that's very premature to start splitting into those two camps. I don't think we're there yet. I also think that it's tragic. I think that everybody should listen and hear what people have to say, investors or not. You should hear what everybody has to say as long as it's said in a respectful way. But I think that it's tragic when people who are not investors feel so strongly and start being derogatory or, defaming the investors of MMTLP. I think we've seen that so much, and I think it's just really been just honestly kind of like disgusting human nature, because if you're not even an investor, I don't think you should have the audacity really to sit here and give an opinion to these investors, and when they don't take your opinion, be derogatory towards them. I think that we're premature on the arguing and bickering about the 2 days or not 2 days. I've explained previously that a judge can order 2 days. A judge can order that. That is a possibility. Has it happened? Not that I can find in case law, but it can happen. Yes, a judge can order it if that is the just protocol to providing a remedy to the people who have been harmed. A judge can do that. They would have to compel NextBridge Hydrocarbons and metamaterials to come to file the necessary documents to do so, but it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Is it likely at this point? It's not very likely, no. But is it possible? Yes. But I think that people splitting into two groups right now over 2 days and not 2 days, it's too early to do that. Right now, what we need to do is get awareness, get people to actually understand what's going on. It's so complicated that you really lose people in the process. Trying to explain it to people, trying to tell them what is going on, trying to explain like this complicated, firstly, about the stock market. People don't even understand the stock market enough to put their own money into it. I think there's something like 30% of something like 30% of investors or 30% of Americans are not involved in the stock market purely because they don't understand it. It's like 30% of people who have enough funds, but they just do not understand it. So they won't even invest their money, number one. Number two, even people who understand the stock market and general stock market, most of them don't understand or know what shorting is. There's attorneys I've talked to that said, I'm sorry, can you explain shorting? And they're very educated, very intelligent people that I consider people that I would ask questions and get ideas from. They don't even know what that is. So now you have to take this, what has proven to be a highly complicated topic, a highly complicated concept that a lot of people just don't even understand. And you really have to break it all the way down for them. That's where we're at right now. Getting the awareness, getting people to realize like this is a huge injustice. It's a theft, right? It's a burglary via stock market. And I think that just getting to the point where we can start negotiating and asking for the remedy, right? That's when you decide 2 days or not 2 days. But right now we need to get to the point where we're even able to ask for a remedy because somebody has acknowledged what an injustice was done. Right now, everybody's kind of speculating. Congress people are speculating. Brokers aren't being clear. banks aren't being clear. Nobody has clearly identified what has happened. Nobody has clearly told us what has happened. Nobody has provided any data. There has been absolutely no identification of what actually occurred. Nobody's put a label on it. So you can't start asking for your remedies until you know what exactly happened and until you hear, that somebody has said, hey, this injustice has been done to these people and we need to use our collective power, right? Through Congress, collective power through the courts, collective power through, elected officials. We need to take that collective power and use it to give a remedy to these people who have been wronged. But we're not there yet, because that's when you say, yeah, and here's the remedy that we want. 2 days of trading, or some kind of forced payout of a certain amount that we can agree upon. That is something that happens after we get where we're at. We're dividing before we're there. We need to be on the same page right now. Everybody needs to collectively say, we need somebody to declare with a name, give it a name, right? Have you ever heard about like the Miranda warnings? You have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say can and will be used against you, in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney. The Miranda warnings, okay, for custodial interrogation, if you're ever under custody of police where you cannot leave, they can interrogate you. But if they do that without giving you your Miranda warnings, they're punished, right? Why? Why is it called the Miranda warnings? Because it happened to somebody and their last name was Miranda. Taylor Miranda, I think. Okay, so they call it the Miranda warnings. They need to give this a name. It needs to be something that somebody is identified and said, these people have been wronged. Here's how they've been wronged. They need to acknowledge the plight, that we've all been robbed, that we've all been burglarized through the stock market, that these hidden features behind the curtain, the man behind the curtain has stolen from us or has perpetuated or enabled the theft against us. We have been wronged, but somebody needs to put a label on it. Somebody needs to say, we're going to use our collective power as Congress, our collective power as judges, our collective power as whomever it is that has the power to give us a remedy. That's when you start saying, I want this or I want that. I agree that from the beginning, we all wanted our days of trading back so we could force the obligations to be purchased at market value. We can still ask for that, and we can still attempt to demand that. But first, what do we need? We need data. We need evidence of what happened. We need to know what exactly is going on. We need somebody to say, there's no transparency here, and that's why these people got wronged, and that's why this stock got manipulated, and that's where all of this came from, is because these people did not have transparency in what they were, investing in. It was our investment. We weren't just buying something at Walmart or whatever. We invested in a company, we invested in an asset, and we were taken advantage of, right? So I think that once we get somebody to acknowledge that, or it's acknowledged on a wide scale, or it's acknowledged by somebody that wields power to make the remedy, that's when we start getting into our camps of what remedies we want. That's when we say, I'm with 2-day or I'm not with 2-day, or I'm with class action or I'm not. We are years away from a class action, in my opinion. We are like a light years away. Class action is on Saturn. We are on Pluto. Like, I don't think that I don't think a class action is the appropriate conversation right now. Nobody has even labeled what has happened to us. There's no name for it. There's no name besides fraud, besides monopoly by the different various people who own the obligation and those who are not enforcing it, or who own the obligation, who made money on the various sales. Every time you buy on the stock market, there's a small percentage that gets paid out to brokerages or market makers, and everybody gets a little, there's always a little fee. There's always a little add up. If you go to buy a stock on Fidelity, they charge you another $1 every time you buy even a dollar stock. So right now, the issue is they haven't labeled what happened to us, other than it's a monopoly because they've all worked in cahoots. It's stock fraud, securities fraud, because something fraudulent is going on. But what? Where is the data? Where are the points, right? Where are the various facts and who's providing it to us and what actually happened and how do we find out. So after we can figure out what happened and somebody says, hey, we acknowledge what happened, this is really wrong, we are going to give these people a remedy, that's when we start to argue about the remedies. Because right now we need to use collective pressure to get those people to acknowledge what has happened to the investors of MMTLP. And it's by, not getting into the two camps of 2 day or not 2 day. That I think that's just whoever started this 2 days or not 2 days thing is, I'm going to put money on it. I'm going to put money on it that they are not an investor. I would put that I don't gamble, but that's one thing I would gamble because it's a for sure win, because whoever did that is a bad actor who just wanted to assert their opinion and investors be, screwed, whatever. They don't care because they are just so arrogant and full of their own opinion that they just wanted to assert it on everybody else. And they're probably not an investor, but they want to come in and save everybody. And they probably don't even know what's going on. So they came in with their opinion on you shouldn't do this or you should do that. And they started saying it. And I'm telling you, I don't even know who said it for sure. I don't. But I think whoever started this divide, they're not with the investors, because all the people I've talked to have always said how, they are sympathetic to everybody else and how we're all in this together and we work together. And there's all this drama on Twitter or whatever. It's really, I don't know, but I'm not involved in it and I don't care to be. But what I will say is the people who have started the people who I've talked to have all been, seems like, together on mostly everything. They've all been concerned with the other people. They've all been concerned with the other investors. They've all been concerned on how this affects us as a whole. But I feel that the people who have started this divide, I understand that people have strong opinions, and that's fine, have strong opinions. But when we get there, we're not there yet. We're not there to start talking about, those various things. And anybody who's trying to push people into camps or push people into making a choice or making a demand right now it's very premature, and it's pushing people will not help anything. The people that should be pushed, right, are the people of Congress, are the people of your state legislature, are the people in your state Senate, are the people in your state House of Representatives, are the people in federal Congress, your Senate members. Like, these are the people that should be pushed right now. These are the people that need to be called, contacted. These are the people that need their phones to be going off the hook. And those are the people that need to be pushed. The investors don't need to be pushed anymore. We've been pushed to the limit. We've been, effectively robbed through the stock market. We've had opportunities robbed of us. And I keep seeing, I don't go on Twitter that much anymore because I try to avoid social media from overindulging in it. But I keep seeing all these fights about 2 days or not 2 days. Who came up and said, you have to decide right now? You don't. You don't have to decide right now. So why are we fighting about this right now? We need to fight to get the attention on it so they can declare what exactly happened to us, and we can move from there in the appropriate steps. Sorry, a few answers do you think a share count will ever come to light? I definitely do. I think that a share count will come to light for sure, because at some point, somebody's going to have to make good on the rest of the shares. And we all know there's not enough. So at some point, somebody will have to make good on it. And at some point, that's when a share count is going to have to come out. Let's say for some crazy reason they decide to settle, which I think will never happen. But if it does, whatever that might come from to pay the settlement. So if they had to settle, what would happen is whoever owns the shorting is a contractual obligation. You basically go under a contract with the broker and the third parties. So whoever owns the stock kind of assigns their contract to the broker. The broker facilitates who has shares that can be lended. So once you turn on share lending, your shares are lent out. The broker facilitates it. They take a percentage or they take a fee. The short people have an obligation to both of those parties, right? The person who has it and the broker, they have an obligation through contract. So their contract obligation is that they're going to return the shares within a certain time frame, and that is how, when a settlement comes out, they will be obligated because they're in that breach of contract. And any other parties who acted in bad faith. So the broker who didn't enforce it or reimburse it or facilitate continued sale, I believe the regulators should be required to participate, or the regulators should be shut down because they, didn't do anything about this, and it's become such a big thing, and it's something that they were supposed to be regulating regularly, right? They're supposed to consistently regulate. So the fact that they didn't, and it's been so long, just demonstrates bad faith, and it just demonstrates that, I think that's when you go after them for a monopoly and you ask them to be shut down. I like what you said in your last video. We deserve maker value for our asset. Give us a market. I agree. I think personally we deserve market value. I think it's worth pushing for the 2 days, because even if we didn't get 2 days, when you push for their worst nightmare, if 2 days was not their worst nightmare, trading would have never been halted. They would have forced to close it out. They would have said, hey, let's clean this mess up and move on. They wouldn't be still in it 10 months down the line. This all happened because their worst nightmare is 2 days. So you shoot for 2 days. Even if you don't fall on the very end of the spectrum, which is their worst nightmare, you fall closer. If you shoot for something in the middle, like class action, it's all the way over here, it's not in the middle to me. If you shoot for class action and here's your worst nightmare, you're going to land over here. You shoot for their worst nightmare so you can land over here, because nobody gets 100% of anything. No, when you go to court, when you do all these things, everybody loses a little bit. You lose attorney's fees, or you lose this, or you lose time, and the judge doesn't ever make the most clean cut. It's never exactly what you want, but you shoot for what you want, and you shoot for more than what you want. So when you settle, you're giving up a little bit, but you're still getting closer to what you want. Why are we negotiating against ourselves? Why enter into a negotiation on your back foot? Why enter in a defensive position? I'm an attorney, and I like to say that I'm a good attorney. I would never enter in on my back foot. I would never enter in on a defensive, right? I'm not going to go in on this side of the spectrum. I'm going in 110%. I'm going in for what I want plus some. I'm going to say, you know what? We want settlement fees, and we want, 2 days of trading. We want 1 day of trading. Force them to close in 24 hours. See how that messes with your market. I'm never going to go in on my back foot in a negotiation. I'm never going to negotiate against myself. But it doesn't mean that you get everything you want. It doesn't mean you get everything you want. It doesn't mean you'll get what you want for sure. So maybe we don't get what we want. But if we start negotiating here, we will never get even close to what we want. So why would you do that? Why go in on your back foot? Anybody who tells you that is either not very good at the art of negotiation, or they are not understanding of the concept of what's going on. They're just not really grasping it, which is fine. Or they're trying to lead you astray. Like, those are the things. Because if you want this, and they're telling you to start from here, and this is your worst nightmare, if you start here, you're going to land here. If you start here, you could land all of this. So it's mind-blowing to me, because the concept is just doesn't make sense, and it's just wrong. And it bothers me that I feel the people who are suggesting these things are not even investors. How much did you miss so far? I really don't know. I'm sorry. Well, I hope, Gio, that you're not glitching anymore. Okay. Yeah, go ahead and share this link. That's fine. I had another link that I put on Twitter, but I don't know how to use my external camera, so it messed up in the beginning, and I should probably delete that video because I think it got all messed up. Sorry. I emailed my state congresswoman who has the most connection to finance and got boilerplate responses from an intern that I emailed about. I feel like that happens. So I think that in those circumstances, you need to just keep calling. There was one time when I needed to get my passport, and I had, applied in like November, and it was March and I didn't get my passport still. So what I had to do, I called the Congress people. I got boilerplate responses, but I started just calling and calling and calling people that weren't even in my immediate district all over the state of Florida, just calling. Finally, somebody actually gives you a response. This is much more complicated. So obviously you're not going to get as easy a response as I did for my passport. But it's just the dedication and the persistence in the calls and reaching out to your state representatives and also the federal Congress people. I think that was a great point that was made, was that, there are blue sky laws, which are state laws about securities, which is great. But I think that something like this, if we want to shoot for here, we need to go, and work our way up to the top. And I think that there's nothing wrong with working your way up to the top. I think there's nothing wrong with, just blasting and emailing and contacting everybody. But I'm still shooting for here. I'm not gonna negotiate on my back foot. I'm not gonna negotiate defensively, and I will never negotiate against myself. If somebody doesn't give you an answer I'll give you a tip on the art of negotiation. If you send out a negotiation, always send it with what you want. So if I'm going out and I'm negotiating and I say, okay, so I need you to give me X, Y, and Z within 10 days, or I will use all whatever remedies are available to me in law, right? So that's my first thing. 10 days pass and they don't send me a response. I'm not going to send them another letter negotiating against myself. If I send them another letter, it's going to be even more strict, or it's going to start saying things like, who do I send service on? I will send service on this address. Can you give me the time? Start pushing for the same things in the first one. Don't start negotiating against yourself. Don't negotiate against your previous offer. Let them do it. That's not up to you to do. So don't negotiate against yourself. Don't argue yourself down. Don't enter a negotiation in a defensive position. Enter an aggressive. Put them on defensive. So why start your offer with a class action? Why start your offer with, a back foot negotiation? Start your offer strong. Don't make them defend themselves. Make them get defensive. Don't be defensive for them. Don't put yourself on the defense. Why would you do that? Whoever would suggest that is just not an attorney, so they don't understand the legal concepts, or they just don't really understand what's going on. So that frustrates me because they cause all this division in the community of MMTLP, all this division. It's so unnecessary because right now we're not there yet. We're not even at the remedies stage. We're still in the getting exposure and getting somebody to declare what has even happened to us. That's the stage we're in. The share count would tell us who to go after. That is correct. The share count will tell us who did what, who shorted what, and who needs to, be held accountable. Harold, I'm hosting a Twitter space, but I got my butt suspended in the mass suspension. Oh, I don't know what the mass suspension is. If we ever had to sue, there are likely multiple class actions we could go for as well as 2 days. We have been harmed even if we have to resort. I agree, but I think that we're not there yet. I agree. If we had to go for a class action, then we would have to go for a class action. But right now, we are not there yet. And we don't start with a class action. Is the blue sheets how we get the share count? Yeah, blue sheets can give you a share count. They give you activity count. FINRA needs its nonprofit status stripped. Yeah, FINRA needs a lot of things stripped. Power. Maybe we can clothe them with some handcuffs, though. Can't stay and listen. Got open space. I'm hosting. Love your content. Thank you. No class action. I definitely don't want a class action unless it's very high. But remember, when you sign the check, you accept whatever happened. In the class action, you can opt out before the checks are sent out. But if you choose to opt out, you won't be bound by that. But then they can still bring up certain defenses that went through in the class action. So in a class action, if a judge determines, a fact in the class action and you later sue them, that fact can be then, they can say, Your Honor, this judge in the class action said this fact was correct and it was, in their favor. Now that fact will be asserted in your case. You won't have the opportunity to litigate it. That is called, It's called issue preclusion. So the issue will be precluded by the previous case and imported into your case. So that is how a class action can harm you, even if you opt out. It's not necessarily likely. I don't know that it's likely, but it does happen. I don't either. I want all the justice, 2 days of trading, settlements, lawsuits, class action is last resort. I think right now we're not at the remedy stage at all. I think that we should keep our mind open to all remedies. I think that we need to get the awareness, and we need to get somebody to declare what has actually happened. So then we start, punching up. You punch up. You don't punch down. Punch up. Well, actually, if you were in an actual fight, don't punch up. That's weak. But in this circumstance, you punch up. What are your thoughts on the new Oil Co. shares from transferring to AST? For me, it doesn't make sense, as it seems to give up on the 2-day remedy, which is what I'm pushing for. I don't necessarily think that's true. So if you watch my last video, which was really long, so maybe didn't, but I think that if a judge orders 2 days of trading, what we would have to tell the judge in that request would be, Your Honor, you ordered 2 days of trading. We want all people who have been harmed. That includes everybody who has been harmed, including those who already have their shares registered with AST. Give them 14 days or whatever to deregister those shares and resubmit them to the former broker at the market, or make all brokers accept a certain amount, right? So these are all going to have to be included in the order from the judge, but you would have to say, Your Honor, we want, we want the justice to be served to all people who have been harmed, and offer them an opportunity, to partake in this, whatever's going on, and deregister those shares at AST and re-register them with a broker so they can participate in the market and they can choose, their form of remedy. We would not want to preclude them of the remedy being issued by the judge because they were also harmed. So if it's at the expense of the ones who did the damage to us, who cares, right? So, Your Honor, they were also harmed. If they'd like an opportunity to participate in this remedy, please make that a part of your order. And that was what the request would be. So I have not seen that happen before. There has been no case law on it. This would be a new request, but I think that a judge could find for it, because a judge is going to do what is the most just, right? That's what they're supposed to do, is whatever is the most just. They're supposed to offer a good remedy. We want market value. That's what we're entitled to. And that's what has been stripped of us. And so if we fight for that, that's once we get to the remedy stage, which we're still not at. But for the people who are scared to register with the AST, I think that if the 2 days of trading came up, then we would ask a judge to allow those people to take them from AST and register them with a broker, or make the previous broker liable for that. I don't think we're there yet either. I agree, we're not. Share count changes everything. It should. Yes, share count changes everything. The activity changes everything. Like 30 of the top MMTLPers have been suspended from Twitter. What is going on Twitter? Everybody's fighting every time I get on there. And I feel like it's all this division is over things that are like we're not even there. Like the remedies thing, like, and other division between the investors has occurred from like non-investors have been pushing it. So I think that's why I'm pushing that people need to really just go all out on getting exposure and getting an answer on this, and stop the infighting. Infighting weakens you to fight out. We need to stop the infighting. If they're going to release the blue sheets, why would we think they haven't been altered? Well, I think that at that point, once they do release them, we have to check their integrity. But I also think that we would probably double check it with the SEC, because the SEC does have, or should have, those blue sheets, because we saw Howard's FOIA, that Freedom of Information Act form, that said we're blue sheeting as we speak. Probably they submitted them to the SEC after that. So we would have to compare. Thank you for you guys. Honestly, somebody said that I was like being harassed or something. That has never happened. Everybody has been so supportive of me. Everybody has been so kind to me. I always feel like I'm being, so embraced by everybody, and I really do love it. I hate to see how everybody's fighting amongst themselves. I hate to see how people are pushing for some kind of, division amongst people when everybody used to just be giving each other information, working really hard on promoting, getting results. And I just feel like it's been really sad. But everybody has treated me great. Do you think deregistering back to the broker would be an additional ask? I think that when you get an order from a judge saying like the judge will force to market 2 days of trading, whatever, it's going to have to say, Nextbridge Hydrocarbons and Metamaterials Nextbridge Hydrocarbons agrees to fill out this form. Blah, 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 agrees to fill out this form for the corporate action. Blah, blah, blah. So that's going to all be part of the order. This person's going to fill out this form. This person's going to agree to comply and fill out this form. FINRA is going to accept the form and allow them to be considered a trading asset. It will enter in like a closed position only. The order is going to have all the steps on it. And it's also going to have to include then AST will deregister. Brokers will be obligated to take return shares to the amount of X shares to Fidelity, X shares to Robinhood, X shares to whatever. It will be closed positions only. With those with short positions will be available to open. Short positions will be assessed to the same parties. It's all going to have to be included. Hi, Rosa. I still have my shares in Fidelity, RA. What is the worst case scenario for us? Honestly, I really don't know the worst case scenario right now. I've really tried to figure that out for myself as well. My shares are with Robinhood and Fidelity, and they're just listed as like whatever MTZZZ and whatever they're listed in Fidelity. And I just feel that whatever, I really don't know what the worst case scenario is. I really don't, because what if they just hold them forever? Like, I really don't know. What if they hold them forever, and then Nextbridge starts paying out dividends and the brokers decide it's cheaper and easier to just pay the dividends than to ever solve it, and they just do that for the next 10 years. Like, that could be the worst case. Like, I don't know. If 2-day position to close only is agreed upon by all parties, how would those agreed upon safeguards be enforced? A good example is the trading algo. Honestly, I think that when you get a court order from a judge and we suspect that there's some kind of, like, we would have to get all of the data of the trading days after it occurs, right? And I think that's also something that a good safeguard could be, including that in the order by saying, after the days of trading, in order to, uphold the integrity of the trading days, all trading data will be provided over. And once you have also a list of all the people who need to close out their positions, then you can say things like, provide all of the data on who now, like what the after trading blue sheeting would be. And then also the actual algorithms of the trade on those trading days. So if you say that it has to be submitted up front in the order, if you say after the trading, all of this has to be submitted through the court, then now you know that you're going to have to submit it. You're more likely to play fair. But again, when you go into court, I have clients who always tell me, but what if he lies, right? If they're going against somebody, and what if he lies? Well, I really can't do anything about it, right? I can say, hey, you're lying. I can say, Your Honor, I think they're lying. I can try to prove that they're lying. But what am I going to do? Hit him? There's nothing we could do at some point. Judge didn't do that for the AMC lawsuit. It was horrible, siding with the AMC board. I know. With AMC, it was different, though, because AMC did not turn private. So that's what makes people compare AMC a lot with MMTLP, but it is different because AMC didn't go private in the way that MMTLP is now a private company. So the regulators and the broker dealers and the market makers have no purview. They have no rights over Nextbridge Hydrocarbons. So when they were doing the trade over, by messing up the handover to the private company, they've robbed the private company. So it's different because AMC is still public. So all of those brokers, market makers, dealers, they all have agreements in the publicly traded stocks. And when you're a publicly traded stock, it's like this, you sign the terms and conditions. That I understand that brokers, dealers, market makers, regulators have certain rights over my trades. You sign the terms and conditions. You agree because you want to be a publicly traded company. NextBridge Hydrocarbons is not a publicly traded company. They didn't sign the terms and conditions. So when you're taking this public company and you're turning it private, you need to comply properly because they have rights that they did not sign away in order to become a publicly traded company. I'm so lost. Sorry. Oh, is it bad actors trying to cause drama? I believe there are so many bad actors causing drama. Maybe they're bad actors because of their own ego. Maybe they're bad actors because they want to get like famous from this. Especially if they're not investors and they're so heavily like pushing in on it. Like you just want to ride the wave to get like your notoriety. There's people who are just so, it's their ego is so invested and they just want everybody to agree with them. But it's like, we don't have to agree with you. We don't have to agree with each other. We don't have to agree because we're not even there yet. We're not even at the remedies yet. We are still at the notoriety. Name what actually happened to us. Provide the evidence. Provide the data. That's where we are. So we need to keep pushing for that. Deal with the remedies later. So all the fighting right now, whoever's starting that, when we're not even at remedies, they're a bad actor. I took a break from Twitter because of all the fighting too. I kept seeing people arguing and people kept coming to me and asking me to participate. And I was like, nobody's ever been rude to me. Even the ramen soups guy was not rude to me, but he was saying mean things about me and like insulting my case or whatever and kind of hurling insults towards me, but never rude to me. So even with him, like he wasn't even rude to me, but I saw he was so derogatory towards the other investors. I didn't want to see his content anymore. And the fact that, you know, if he had something to say to me that was derogatory about my case, well, then why don't you go to law school and file a case? You probably don't know about the law, which is fine. I don't expect you to, but don't be derogatory towards me because I spend my free time doing stuff like this. I spend my free time researching it. I spend my free time preparing appeals now for the 11th Circuit. So if you want to be derogatory, don't hurl it towards me because I haven't done anything to you. I don't even know you. Are you even an investor? And, you know, I wish you the best of luck to everybody fighting for the blue sheets right now. I wish them every ounce of luck. I pray that every single person gets a copy. But what is the point of fighting each other? What does that help anybody? What is the point of what? Is it for the egos? Is it for what? Like, what is the point of it? I really don't know. We could never trust the SEC. So I agree and I disagree. I think that the SEC already got the blue sheets before all of this happened back in December 5th or 6th when they said we're blue sheeting as we speak. I think they probably got them shortly thereafter. And I think that if we go to the SEC to compare the blue sheets, we would have to get evidence of like the original blue sheets that were provided to them. Like we'd be like, okay, give us the email that they sent it in a file, probably like some kind of coded file, and open that exact file and like provide that exact file. And we could get the metadata too, which says when it was prepared, when it was last edited. So that I actually had to do that one time where I had to show the metadata show that it was that the last alterations to a document were made shortly before the document was shown to the court. So you just say, hey, look at the metadata on this. So those are different ways to try and, you know, ensure that the integrity of what's provided to us is there. The fighting was started by people who aren't even holding the stock. That's what I'm saying. I think this fighting is started by people who are not investors. Someone on Twitter, I just don't agree with them. My business was doxxed. Yeah, what is up with all the doxing? People keep saying that they're doxing and somebody's doxing them and they're all getting doxed. Like, what the hell is going on? It's just ridiculous to me because everybody should be working together because we're all on the same boat. And when the boat starts to leak, we all go down. But I think that people who are starting all the fighting, I'm telling you, they're not investors. Didn't the people who got suspended participate in that 2 or 3 day marathon to get Elon involved? I don't know what happened with that. I use Robinhood and Fidelity. And if there are more shares out there than there are supposed to be, what is going to happen to the ones who are holding after the whole float has been repurchased by the short positions? So if we did a closed position only, they would have to, that's when people would have the opportunity to sell, right? So if it's closed position only, you have the opportunity to sell. And then once you sell, they can, buy out to close out those short positions and return it to the original holders. So it would kind of close in. So if there's only supposed to be 165.5 million and there's 200 million or whatever, when you enter closed position only, you start to leverage that back down because people are selling. Just a crime in the SEC and FINRA can freeze. I think that, yes, I agree. I think we've been burglarized, and I think the stock market was the gun. MMTLP and AMC are definitely different. I was just making the comment that the judge didn't do the right thing. I agree. I think that the judge on that, judges aren't perfect, but it's also up, like, you have to lead them the best you can. But some judges are not going to make the decision you want because they don't see precedent for it. There's no precedent for this. What I'm asking for, there's no cases in history that the judge can rely on to say, oh yeah, well, this judge did it, so I'll do it because that's the correct remedy. But, we've come to a point of time where the technology is new, the things are new. Trading in the stock market used to be paper. It used to take days. The average stock back in the 1920s or 1950s, I think, people used to hold the same stock investment for an average of 4 years, right? Now people hold a stock for the average of 7 seconds because people are just flipping. Because the average stock investments are made by large companies that are buying and flipping and diversifying portfolios, and they're mutual funds or whatever. They're just mutual fund managers. So they're doing constant flips and they're shorting from the funds that they're managing. So there is no history on it. This is something new. We are asking the judge to create a new remedy or resolution. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means that you have to ask the judge to do something new. And you have to say, these are extraordinary circumstances that we have not seen before. And I think that a judge would be willing to do it if you show them just how extraordinary this is. But how can we do that if we don't have the data? Rosa, if you see negative comments on your streams, it isn't people on this. I have not seen any negative comments on my streams, honestly, so far. I'm so thankful. Like I said, everybody has been so just kind, overwhelmingly supportive. I have never been targeted or bothered. People have been aggressive with me only because they wanted me to partner with them or get them some notoriety, or people were saying that they were a whistleblower and they wanted whatever. And it was more of aggression because they wanted me to name drop them or something. But nobody has ever been rude to me. People have tried to say stuff about my case or whatever, but it's people who are not attorneys. So, I mean, I'm sorry, they don't understand the law, which they're not expected to. I don't expect anybody to know the law, but different attorneys have different methods and different strategies. I would never go in on my back foot with negotiating. I never negotiate from a defensive position. I negotiate from an aggressive position and put somebody else on the defense. But different attorneys have different perspectives and different ways of doing things. So if somebody's, criticizing whatever I'm doing, it doesn't really bother me. But nobody has been rude to me or tried to dox me or any of the other scary things that are happening all over Twitter. Thank you for everybody who's telling me they're glad that I started a channel. I feel so thankful how everybody's just been so nice with me. Shimmy paintings. Thank you so much. More guest hosts for everybody. I agree. What's next on my case right now? I am in the appellate court, so I'm in the 11th Circuit. If the judges of the 11th Circuit appellate court don't agree with me, then again, I would appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States. So if we have to get there, we'll get there. But I think right now I'm optimistic about the appellates because there's 3 judges. You explain the complexity of the stock market and how the stock market has evolved from paper stocks to technology, where the trades are so fast, but there's $1 billion company that's investing in the stock market that's regulating it. And once we have some data, it can change everything. And people, once you start to explain all of these things and all these factors, that all we need is the data, and then we know what actually happened to us, then I think that, it's pretty reasonable for a judge to agree. And I think when you have 3, the chance you'll get 1 out of 3 to be agreeable, I think is a good shot. But if that does not happen, then, you go to Supreme Court. Do what you got to do. There's another oil company recently that was a private oil company that shares were selling on the market. I think it was on Allie's YouTube channel. They requested the blue sheets and they were given the blue sheets in a much timelier manner. Yeah, I don't doubt that, because I think that you request the blue sheets, you should get them, right? Like what's wrong with the transparency? Why not be transparent? What's wrong? What is the rationale behind lack of transparency when people don't have shares? They're supposed to automatically trade them. When I first contacted AST, they told me they'll automatically be transferred by the broker. Brokers haven't done that. Why? Because they're scared to start sending all their shares, in my opinion. And they're scared to announce to people, yeah, we send it to all the shares, because then when they're not able to, it all comes to light on its own. I have shares of NextBridge in my broker's account. What will happen to my shares if I don't transfer them to AST? It's insanely high. I appreciate it. So I think that whatever shares you have of NextBridge in your brokerage account, I think that those are just obligation shares that just demonstrate that they owe an obligation to you to match NextBridge. I don't think that those are actually shares, because AST can hold the shares. It depends. Some brokers are able to hold shares for private companies in a publicly traded brokerage, but it is my opinion that it is more likely that is not what happened. It's likely to me that those shares for NextBridge hydrocarbons in your broker's account are actually just tracers that say this person had this many shares of NextBridge. So as we figure out what's going on, this person is entitled to the dividends. So if we have to keep holding these shares, we're going to have to pay out those dividends. And they'll charge them against the people who have shorted the position. Attorney's name is James Kidney. Who is James Kidney? I pray for every day for all the thank you so much. That's so sweet. You guys are so supportive of me. There's so many times when I feel so beaten down by this, because it's a lot of work, and in federal court, you really have to file and be on your toes. And, it's a lot of work, but everybody has been so supportive, and it just pushes me forward, and it just propels me into just, you just got to sit down and think about what you're doing and then just go for it. I think the best and fastest way to resolve all this is by moving our shares to AST, get the bus full. At least then we can commit to 50% of our holding. I think that like I said, if we want the trading days back, I don't think that being an AST should preclude you. And I think that whoever tries to get the trading days back should make sure to give everybody who has their shares at AST an opportunity to go backwards. I will say, I think that if it is in a settlement, when you have a settlement agreement, they're not going to say, yeah, we'll take on more obligations. They're going to say we have X amount outstanding and X amount still with the broker dealers and X amount in AST. We're going to settle out the outstanding and then move the rest to the AST. So I think that if it occurs via settlement, if there was trading days via settlement, or if there was, which I doubt that. I think that via settlement, that's never going to happen. Via settlement, they're going to pay outstanding shares. Either they're going to pay money to all the people, but then who's going to get the shares that are left over? So they're going to probably, if there's a settlement, they're just going to start picking off and offering people money to transfer their shares and maybe sign an NDA or something. And then they're going to take their obligation and shrink it down, and then everybody else is going to be pushed into AST. If it occurs through a case, right, and there's some kind of judgment that says we're going to do 2 days of trading, I think that whoever got that judgment would have to ask the judge, allow 14 days for everybody in AST to transfer back. So I think that transferring to AST, I don't think is a big deal. You just may not be able to get a settlement if it turns into a settlement. But I don't think that I don't think anybody's anticipating a good settlement coming forward. So I think that if that's what's holding you out, transfer. MMTLP was a huge crime on the retail investor. It was burglary. Time frame for a next court case, 6 months. Rose will go to Supreme Court one day and hold a seat there. I would love to be on the Supreme Court and start making good changes, but I don't know what the time frame is. The appellate court is going to have to review the forms that I sent in, and I have to still file an appellate brief. And then after they review it, they'll get back to me on whether or not they're going to give me a hearing. They won't give, yeah, exactly. They won't give blue sheets right now. They're not giving them up for free. They're not giving them up, even though We have all acknowledged that there is an issue going on. So they're not giving them up. They acknowledge there's an issue going on. We acknowledge there's an issue going on. There's people who cannot, there is an outstanding number of shares, so everybody knows it, and they still won't give up the blue sheets. Why? Why continue to be sued? Why continue? Because there's something to hide. There's something so valuable for them to hide that it is worth being sued. It is worth being tarnished. It is worth, they put up a tweet and everybody replies on it within 1 second. They had to send their employees home. Do you remember? In the first week when all of this happened, they told their employees, don't go to work because you might be physically harmed. So for all of this, whatever's on those blue sheets is worth subjecting yourself to all of this. Sending every FINRA employee home from every location for a week. Think about that. Why did they do that? Because whatever's on the blue sheets is worth hiding. And I'd love to get my eyes on it. My shares are AST now. You're a shareholder fighting for shareholders. Yeah, and when the people who are not even shareholders are causing shareholders to fight, it really bothers me. What happens if it's only NextBridge who gets settlement and they just don't pay out to the investors? I think NextBridge has been very timid about what they're going to do because I think that they are trying to pay out to the investors. And I think that they want to pay off their debts and they want to be able to have the money to continue production, because when a company CEO, is appointed and they choose their board of directors are appointed and the actors are appointed, all the agents and stuff, they have to fulfill the mission. And if they don't do something to make the business productive and make the business meet its mission, meet its goals, and start making money, they are breaking their fiduciary duty. So while they want to help all the shareholders, that's something they can want to do, but they absolutely must make the company productive. Legally, they have a fiduciary duty, which is the highest duty that can be imposed by law, a fiduciary duty, to make the company productive, to help reduce the company's debts, and to make the company continue towards the mission of why the company was opened. So they opened the company, right, of NextBridge Hydrocarbons for oil and gas acquisitions, right, for, mining and acquiring gas and acquiring other leases and fields of gas and whatever. So in acquiring this gas, they must continue to be productive. So they have to pay down their debts and they have to raise their equity by creating some kind of production. So even if they want to help us, that's not the main mission. And they absolutely, that could be something they want to do and they try to do. But what they absolutely must do is create some kind of income. So if they got a settlement, I think they would want to appease us and they would want us to be happy and they would want to help us and want to give us money. But I think that they absolutely must continue to drill. I got lost for sorry. Brokers are saying 6 to 9 weeks for transfer to AST. That's ridiculous. Thank you, Peter. We'll never get the blue sheets, but the closer we are to getting them, we'll force a resolution. I want those blue sheets. I want them. I wish NextBridge could start producing and selling oil to give us dividends. I agree. If they would start producing and making payouts happen, then all the brokers would have to make sure that payouts are getting paid to all the people. And when it's 100 million shorts, right? There's 100 million short positions that didn't close out, that duplicated the shares. So now if every dividend is $1, they have to pay $100 million. I mean, that's a lot of money, right? So they need to figure it out. And I think that starts to put pressure. The more that the payouts are, it starts to put more pressure on saying, we need a resolution. We cannot continue to just, have this obligation that we just pay out for the rest of our lives. Because what if one day it's $5, it's, $50? What are they going to do then when they have to pay, $5 billion or whatever? Merrill Lynch is charging $500. Merrill Lynch is charging what? I don't even know if that's legal. I would review your contract or the terms and conditions when you opened your Merrill Lynch account. And I would also maybe, I have to look up. I'm sure there are limits to how much they can charge. And I do not think they can charge $500 for the transfer fee. I would have to see, but I'm fairly certain they're not allowed to charge that. I think that the reason why they won't do the 2 days is they don't want to admit fault. And if they allow the 2 days of trading, then they admit the fault. Also, even if it went to $100, when you start to have that many shorts trying to cover, it can crash the market, actually. It actually could crash the market. In my opinion, it could like tumble the economy, which is already in flux right now because we're already like in a deep recession. So I think that maybe it's just like a fear, but I think that that's not our problem. Let the brokers lose their money. Who cares? In my opinion, the brokers and the hedge funds make billions of dollars a year. So if they're the ones that stand to lose, it doesn't really bother me. Let them go fix the economy that they're the ones breaking anyways. Not just in the one day, right? It's consistently throughout time. I'm surprised they haven't started gray market offers, but the reality is it's worse than anyone can comprehend. I agree. I'm so surprised that they have not started gray market offers or started to reach out to people individually for settlements with an NDA, like a non-disclosure agreement saying, sign this NDA and we'll give you X amount of dollars for your shares. I'm so surprised. Thank you, Jesse. Can you use that private oil company as precedent to request the blue sheets? I have to look at that case because if a private oil company requested blue sheets, who did they request them from? And also, why was it trading? So what exactly was trading publicly? Was it the private company was trading on its own, or that it was trading before the company went private? I bet it's so bad that multiple organizations would be insolvent. I agree. I bet it's so bad. I cannot even imagine how bad it is, because why else would they carry out this obligation? It took 5 days for me to transfer from Fidelity. It's not too bad, as long as they didn't charge you $500. What the heck? Pretty sure the blue sheets court case didn't produce the blue sheets. Why do you think that W. Christian hasn't helped you or been more vocal? I think Christian is probably just analyzing what's going on. And like I said, we don't know what we're dealing with. We don't have the blue sheets. We only know what we know, which is based on like our own rudimentary data reviews of like, you know, when you open up the back screen data on the shorting, when you look at the short positions from like iBorrowDesk and all these things, that's what we have. We don't have the hard data. So I'm sure that Christian is waiting until he gets the hard data so we can say, based on what actually happened, and here's the proof, here's what our options are, here's what we can do, here's blah, blah. I think it's better that he's been silent rather than saying, you know, class action, class action, class action. I think that it's better that he's just been like, you know, quiet about it, waiting for the data. That shows me he's got some integrity, and he's probably, you know, a pretty good attorney. I don't know him or anything about him, really. I haven't really looked into him, so I can't vouch for him. But in my opinion, the fact that he's been quiet, to me, is a good thing, because he's not pushing a class action when he doesn't even have the data. And he's also not making assumptions without having the data. He's not an investor. All of us invested because we knew about the shorting and because we knew about the various things going on with the stock. So all of us invested. He's not an investor. He got involved in this after the fact. So he doesn't have the same data that we have, and he maybe didn't follow the same tech things that we followed. So maybe that's why he's just waiting for the data and not making assumptions. People who don't know everything and didn't invest and didn't whatever, and they just make assumptions on, here's what we're going to do, here's what we're going to sue for. Well, we don't have the data, so how can you know? Because you also haven't been reviewing this over time. Before it even halted, amongst us, we were sharing, you know, short positions, this, that, whatever our expectations are, what we thought was going to happen and why we thought it, and providing sites and sources for why we thought that. So I think that if you don't know all of that and you don't have all of that background knowledge and you weren't involved at that time, to start saying, you know, making all these wild assumptions about what, or making all these suggestions about a remedy when we're not even there yet, because we don't even know what actually happened by data. We don't have data to say 100 million, 200 million, 150 million, whatever. All we know is that it's so bad they won't show us. Well, to start making, you know, legal arguments about it, you really can't do that because you don't have the proof. So I think that as investors, I think that we have an advantage on the previous knowledge that we have because of our previous investment, and because of our previous research that we had all done, because when your money is involved, you're in it. But I think the people who are outside of it, that are, you know, making a bunch of assumptions and legal arguments and conclusions, I just think that that's not prudent. So the fact that Wes Christian hasn't said anything, to me, shows that he's got some integrity to him. Sorry, I got lost. Okay, do you think this could be an option? All shareholders receive a large cash settlement and everybody's pushing into NextBridge. Well, here's the problem. If they push everybody into NextBridge, they're still going to have an unequal share count. So then NextBridge gets diluted, and NextBridge has to issue more shares. And I think if they did that a lot, people would be mad. Yeah, I think if FINRA just let nature take its course, we could have all made some good money. Not technically a recession according to the White House. Well, has the White House on the price of milk these days? Brokers were trading the private company just like Torchlight. Brokers were trading the private company without the company's permission. They didn't know their stock was trading. I think it was an Australian oil company. I have to look into it. If you can comment this stock, I'll look into it. Schwab refused to transfer to AST. They will only offer a paper certificate. Contact AST and tell them Schwab is not offering to transfer. How do we get Schwab to transfer? Ask AST to facilitate. Any settlement has to be to all shareholders because ultimately they're supposed to only be 165. You can't pay some who gets NextBridge, who gets cash. Exactly. You would have to start picking people off one by one to buy their shares to close out shorts. If there weren't too big of a liability, the galleon wouldn't have occurred. The halt, you mean? Time is equivalent to the size of the liability. The litigation is incurred costs. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They wouldn't have let it go on this long if it wasn't a big deal. If it was small, they would have just closed it out and pushed it on. How does a layperson make headway on getting hard data or something other than basic analysis and conjecture? I think that everybody needs to push for Congress to require the data to be released, and then we have to do a Freedom of Information Act or a request on Congress. That's what I'm saying. You need to push your state representatives. You need to push your state House representatives and the federal House representatives. Everybody just needs to be blown up. Everybody just needs to be like nonstop requesting. Like they need to start knowing you by name when you answer the phone. NextBridge can accept dilution by getting compensation for it. Then you can have everybody in NextBridge hydrocarbons. But you would have to get, firstly, in order to issue additional shares, NextBridge Hydrocarbons has to make a corporate action that they are going to issue additional shares. And I think that shareholders could then have a shareholder case against the CEOs. But then I think they might have certain immunity, to be honest. The whole thing is just a mess. But if NextBridge Hydrocarbons issued more shares and diluted the shares in order to accommodate the short positions, people would not be happy about it. And I think that that would be a problem for NextBridge Hydrocarbons. I own shares in my retirement account and have invested. Me too. I've been in since Torchlight days. My retirement account does not have MMTLP. It's just on my own. I just bought it personally. The higher incurred cost reflection of the size of the problem. I agree. MMTLP on shares on sale for any shorts to cover. The infighting is driving investors away from participating and pressuring. I agree. It's causing people to just give up. People are just saying, like, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I don't want to deal with this community anymore. It's become ridiculous. And I think that the infighting needs to stop. We're not even at the remedies yet. So you're fighting over 2 days or not. That's not the right question right now. There's loophole and fidelity transfer fee. If you have a certain amount of shares in your account or have traded over 120 times, they will do the paper transfer at no cost. So somebody needs to trade it over 120 times. Somebody needs to put that on Twitter or something and tag it and tag me and I'll retweet it so people know that they don't have to do that. I spoke with Vivek on MMTLP issues and said details on it. You sent me details on it? If you guys send me messages, I get so many messages. Send it to the email that I'll leave in the description on this because my email in the description helps a lot because I am able to like read those. And when I try to reply to people on my phone, it's like harder, but on my computer, I can get, I have fast typing and I can, type out a long full response with like paragraphs and stuff. And on my phone, I can't really do that. So I don't really like the Twitter DMs as much as just I'll put the email in here. Okay, guys. Well, I think to like summarize, I think what's so important is that we need to get the data. And I think what's so important is figuring out the extent of what has actually occurred and what has actually happened to us. And then we start to seek the remedy on what we want because of what occurred. But until we know what occurred, until we can label it, until they start to say, hey, we're going to put out the MMTLP law, kind of like the Miranda warnings, like I talked about earlier, like until we can actually get a label on what happened and find out the extent of the damage, I don't think we need to fight about the remedies. I think that we can have different opinions on the remedies, but I also think that in the course of negotiations, we need to go all the way and be aggressive and make them be defensive because they have an obligation to fulfill, not us. And I think all the infighting about the remedies, 2 days or not, I think that it's uncalled for. And I think that it just causes division. So people are losing their momentum. We need people to gain momentum and say, it's been so long. That just shows us how big this is. We need to keep pushing, not take the wind out of people's sails because they don't agree with us. We don't need to all agree with each other on the remedies right now. We need to agree that we're going to keep pushing and keep the momentum up and keep our sales going so we can get the data, and then we can decide what we want to do for remedies. And then if we want to fight about remedies, that's fine. But right now, we need to push, and that's what we need to be doing. And we need to say remedies are later. I have no idea how long this is going to take. Honestly, I have not seen something like this happen before where it's been this ridiculous. And to me, the longer it holds out, it's like the worse that it really is. All right. Well, thank you guys all so much for joining me. Thank you guys for supporting me and like trying to do the YouTube. I think that doing YouTube helps because it's so much easier for me to read the chats when I try to like, when I was doing Twitter's too much drama now, but also when I was doing Twitter spaces, like people would have to all get the mic and then it takes forever and it's like a lot harder to like hear people's questions. So on the chat, somebody can just put in a message and I can read it right now and just answer the questions. And then when people send me emails, I'll look at those questions and try to answer them in videos. And I think that's just so much easier and better. And then I can just do it on my own time schedule too and just be in and out when I need to be. So I like that about YouTube. And I just want to thank everybody for supporting me because it's not easy to like get a YouTube channel done and started, and I've gotten like so many followers so fast and stuff, and it's just been a lot of help, and it's been so supportive, and I really just appreciate that. So I don't know, people were like asking me if I was like attacked or people were insulting me or something. That has never happened to me. You know, I'm so fortunate, and I can acknowledge, you know, my good fortune in that everybody has been just so kind and so supportive. So thank you guys so much. And I am just so happy about it. And I will probably be back maybe next weekend and hopefully with something good. So let's hope, you know, knock on wood, that I have another thing to file in my appellate case next week. It needs to be filed by Thursday or Friday. It's a short document. It's not a full thing. And then I have to file my brief I have about 20 days left to do that. So an appellate brief is a big deal. So I have that, and then I have my wonderful Bears tomorrow. So I see everybody's rooting for the Bears. So bear down. We're going to absolutely crush the cheese out of the Packers, and we're just going to kill it. I'm so excited for it, and it's going to be a great year. It's going to be the first game of the great year, first real season game. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you next week. Maybe next week. I don't know. I can't commit right now because I have to work on that brief so bad. That appellate brief is going to be like the bane of my existence. Thanks, guys.